y'all, Kraken Latte here. Welcome to a new mini-series where I cover my results from leveling through each zone in World of Warcraft. This data is being collected in order to make my new leveling guides. As you can imagine, going through each zone in WoW, sometimes even twice due to faction differences, is going to take a while. So, in the meantime, I'll share my findings with you. Since the process of leveling was changed in 9.0, including the introduction of Chromie Time and the removal of heirloom buffs, zones give different results than before, and that's why I'm redoing them all. I'm not going to repeat the ground rules again so as not to bore all of you who saw the first episode. If you haven't seen it though, please go watch that so you can understand my results and not wonder why yours may look different. Let's get right into it. There was some concern on my review of Outland zones about how I didn't test everything with flying, and that's why my results were so bad. So, since I'm a masochist for leveling and I want to make sure you all get the information you need, here's Outland Part 2, the Flying Edition. To give all these zones the best possible times, I used alts all in the 40s range. So, as we move through each zone, I will show you the original results as well as the new test, so you can see the difference between the two and what the scaling is like. Starting with our first faction-neutral zone of Hellfire Peninsula, I went from 42 to 48 in 198 minutes. So as you can see, compared to the 10s range, that time is a lot better, but you drop down to only 6 levels. And so that's still pretty long for only 6 levels. Sliding into our next faction-neutral zone, we have Zangarmarsh. Here are the original results compared to the new ones. I went from 41 to 45 in 83 minutes. Well, you can see there is a huge improvement on time there. There is a huge decline on the XP gained as well. That's only 4 measly little levels in 83 minutes. Hopping over the mountains to the south, we have the next faction-neutral zone of Nagrand. Here are the old results, and here's the new one. I went from 42 to 48 in 167 minutes. Similarly, we have only 6 levels here in the 40s range, and the time is a little bit better. The zone itself is still quite large, and whether you're flying or whether you're riding, there's not a lot of obstruction since it's fairly flat, with the exception of the mountains in the northwest, but otherwise the travel time is pretty much what it is. To the east of Shadowmoon City, we have Terokkar Forest, a faction-neutral zone. Here are the old results, and here's the new one. I went from 41 to 49 in 222 minutes. Now, there is a distinction to be made on this one, and that is because I was high enough level to do the Addons and Skyguard dailies and quest lines that became available to me. Now, you're supposed to be able to do these at level 15 according to my add-ons, but they were definitely not there on my level 20s, so I am assuming it is a flying thing because flying was introduced in Outland, and these are end-zoned dailies and quests, and they definitely needed the flying part since I had to go on top of buildings and things. So, I'm assuming that's why that is there. But at any rate, the Addons and Skyguard portion resulted in 1 level in about an hour. So 48 to 49 of these results and 53-ish minutes are the Addons and Skyguard additional XP. So not too bad. So for a direct comparison to the original data, I went from 41 to 48 in 169 minutes, excluding the additional end zone type of stuff. So you can see that there was about an hour's worth of maybe more of time improvement there, but you still only get about 7-ish levels in Terokkar, so for that time that's not entirely great. And next we have the contested zone of Blade's Edge Mountains. I only did this once on the new test, and I did it on Horde, so here are my results for that compared to the old. I went from 41 to 47 in 177 minutes, so you can see there was a time improvement, but it was only about half an hour-ish, so not too much of a difference there. Travel time has a lot less impact than you would think in questing. It's really the quest structure, the design, the pathing. That's what brings times to what they are in what I've noticed, as you can see here. So you can see the time is certainly better there, but you still only get 6 levels, which seems to be the trend for the 40s range, is an average of 6 levels in Blade's Edge Mountains. And if you'd watched part 1 of this, you will know that Shadowmoon Valley and Netherstorm were already done with flying, since you cannot quest in either of those zones until level 25, and I did them at 30 when I tested them previously. So I did not feel the need to redo these, because I can make a prediction here that Shadowmoon Valley would likely drop down to about 4-ish levels, maybe less, since you only got 6 in the 30s. And Netherstorm, you would likely drop down to about 6 or 7, similar to Terokkar, since that seems to be similar data there. So, and there we have it. That is the new data for the flying perspective of Outland. And so what do I think compared to the old? I still think it's not great, personally. If you look at these times and you average that out, that's still the 20 to 30 minutes per level, just like it was in the lower ranges. That, you know, it's very similar. And that's a shame, honestly, because a lot of these zones are quite beautiful. I mean, you know, I don't hate questing here necessarily. They're just really, really long, and they don't give as much XP as I think they should to make them, you know, feel competitive to the other expansions. And this isn't, for those of you that are newer, this isn't a Chromie time issue. This has been something that has existed for a long time, and for those of you that have played longer than the BFA and Shadowlands expansions might remember the 60 to 85 range, that level range back when, you know, 110, 120 was there, was terrible. That was the worst. So much so, that's the BC and Wrath old range, for those of you that aren't sure. But so much so that Blizzard actually came in and buffed the XP that you get from 60 to 85 back when that was the current range, and it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't enough, and you still see that here when it's singled out by itself under the spotlight, and it just needs a buff of XP in my opinion. It really does. And I can say that with confidence because I am in the middle of doing the Northrend zones right now. I just took a pause to get this video out, so they you know, there wasn't a lack of continuity there. But even compared to Northrend, like Northrend, I am getting a lot better results, numbers-wise in the XP range compared to Outland. So poor little Outland is just, it's old, you know, I mean, it's the grandpa of WoW, shall we say. It's the grandpa zones, which is a shame. Poor little Outland. And I think that's enough rambling on that, so hopefully that satisfies those of you who had concerns about my results due to the lack of being able to fly, because travel time does make a factor, but it actually makes a lot less of an impact on time than you would think if you really look at the time comparisons to some of these here. Outland isn't that hard to traverse. Actually, I would personally think Northrend is a little more difficult to traverse than Outland is. Outland is fairly flat, actually, in some areas if you really look at it. But despite that, that's the results, and I am going to still attempt to put out Northrend this Friday in just a few days here, because I am half done with Northrend because it's been a little more forgiving than Outland was. So I hope this helps those who wanted it. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's never too latte.